Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Think about this. You've worked really hard, right? Made some big changes in your life, maybe physically, maybe something else entirely.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, you look in the mirror. You're just brushing your teeth, something totally normal.
Mm-hmm.
And for just a split second, that person looking back at you,
Huh.
it just feels a little, well, unfamiliar.
Yeah, like your brain hasn't quite caught up with what your eyes are seeing.
Exactly. Your internal sense of self is lagging behind the external reality.
It's actually a surprisingly common thing, this feeling of disconnect. And today we're diving deep into this idea, this concept called identity lag.
Right. Especially when it comes to big physical changes like weight loss.
Exactly. And we're going to be leaning on the insights of Dan Hollis, who really has some remarkable ways of framing this whole journey.
Yeah, his perspective seems really valuable. So our mission today for this deep dive is really to get past just the surface stuff, the physical transformation.
Right.
We want to understand that psychological journey, the becoming part. What actually happens in that space after the big changes start showing up? And crucially, how do you navigate that?
Okay, so let's start with a story that really brings this to life. Adrian's story.
Yeah, tell us about Adrienne, because her experience seems to really capture this identity lag perfectly. It wasn't some huge dramatic moment, was it?
No, not at all. That's what's so striking. The source material describes it as super mundane. She's just like brushing her teeth, same old routine, leaning over the sink.
Okay.
But then she looks up and bam, she just doesn't recognize the woman staring back at her from the mirror.
Wow. So just completely disconnected.
Completely. That feeling of not belonging to her own reflection, that's really central here.
Yeah.
Her face was thinner. Yeah, the lines maybe a bit sharper.
Mm-hmm.
Her eyes felt, as she put it, both older and newer somehow. And she told Dan Hollis later she knew logically it was her face, but...
But the feeling wasn't there.
Exactly. She didn't feel like she belonged to that person anymore. It was this total internal disconnect from her physical self.
And this wasn't something that happened overnight.
Yeah.
Right. Give us a little context on Adrienne.
Right, yeah. She was 53, apparently hadn't taken a full-body photo in something like 12 years.
Wow.
Had the classic drawer full of gold jeans, and just a lot of hesitations built up over time.
Okay, so she'd been carrying this for a while.
For a long time. And physically, things had actually been going pretty well for months. She was using Semaglutide.
Okay.
Her appetite was down, knees felt better, clothes were starting to fit, all the external markers were positive.
Things you'd think would make you feel great.
You'd think so. But for Adrienne, seeing that stranger in the mirror, it didn't feel like a victory. It felt, she described it as feeling like a disappearance.
A disappearance.
Yeah.
Not an arrival.
Exactly. And this is right where Dan Hollis steps in with his term, identity lag.
Okay.
He puts it so clearly. Your body can change faster than your story. And when that happens, the soul gets confused.
The soul gets confused. That's powerful.
It really is. And here's his core insight, which kind of flips the script.
Yeah.
Most people assume the really hard part is losing the weight.
Right. The struggle, the diet, the exercise.
Yeah. But Dan argues the real crisis, the deeper challenge, often comes in those moments after the physical changes settle in.
After. How so?
Well, when the constant physical hunger quiets down, when the old rituals around food start to dissolve, when that armor drops off.
Armor. Yeah, I like that image.
It leaves you feeling, well, unrecognizable, even to yourself. That's the crisis moment.
So when you said the armor drops, it sounds like Adrienne wasn't just grieving the pounds she lost. She was grieving the person she used to be, the one who knew how to operate with that armor on.
You nailed it. That's exactly it. She wasn't mourning the actual weight, but the version of herself who had carried it for so long.
The one who had strategies.
Totally. The one who knew how to manage a room with a joke, maybe deflect attention, knew exactly which sweaters covered the most, which, apologies, sounded just casual enough.
She was good at being that person.
She was. She knew that role inside out. And now she was, as the source says, a body in transition and a mind without a map.
Wow. A mind without a map. That really paints a picture of feeling lost.
Definitely. It's a profound disorientation.
And Dan Hollis, the way he talks about this, it's not like a typical diet guru or, a marketer. It sounds like he comes from a place of deep understanding.
Oh, absolutely. The source describes him as speaking with this calm clarity, not selling anything, just explaining, like someone who's actually lived in the hallway between biology and identity.
Lived in the hallway between biology and identity. I like that. It captures that in-between space perfectly.
It really does. He seems to understand that liminal zone where the physical changes slam up against your ingrained sense of who you are.
So how does he help people navigate that hallway? What's his approach? Because clearly it's not just about meal plans.
No, definitely not. So take semaglutide, for example. He doesn't see it as a magic fix. Not at all. He has this great line. Semaglutide doesn't fix you. It gives you space to fix yourself.
You give space, okay.
Yeah. He uses this analogy like, it's good lumber for building a house. The lumber doesn't build the house for you.
Right, it makes it possible.
Exactly. It makes building possible, but only if you're ready and willing to actually do the construction work. It's about using that pause, that quiet space it creates, to do the much deeper internal work.
So it's about what you actively do with that space that opens up. And he also reframes hunger itself, doesn't he? It's not just about physical signals for him.
That's a key part of it. He argues that hunger, a lot of the time, isn't purely physical. It often acts as a kind of stand-in.
A stand-in? For what?
Well, a surrogate for meaning, comfort, escape, whatever emotional gap you're trying to fill.
Ah, okay. So when a medication like semaglutide quiets that constant physical craving.
Right, the static cuts out. And what's left, he calls it the post-craving reality.
Post-craving reality.
Yeah, and he says, when the cravings stop, the truth begins. But that truth can be, well, pretty startling.
How so? What kind of truth?
It might be realizing just how much food was masking deeper emotional stuff, or maybe how much it was your primary way of coping with stress, boredom, sadness.
Your main tool in the toolbox.
Exactly. And losing that tool without having a replacement ready can lead to real grief, real disorientation. Because for so many people, food wasn't just food, it was the plan, it was the rhythm of the day, it was the escape hatch.
That makes so much sense. If food was your go-to response for everything difficult, taking it away,
Yeah.
that would leave a massive void, confusing silence.
A huge void. And this is precisely why Dan put such a massive emphasis on building scaffolding and fostering community. It's not an add-on for him, it's essential.
Scaffolding and community. Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, his whole framework is really built around connection. He says something really stark. Most people don't fail because the medication doesn't work. They fail because they were alone.
Wow, because they were alone.
Yeah. And by scaffolding, he means actively, consciously building new patterns and pathways in your brain.
Not just willpower.
No, tangible structures. He
Yeah.
calls them actual neurobiological replacement structures. Think of it like creating new rituals, finding a new daily rhythm, establishing new routines. It's the mental lattice,
Yeah.
the thing that keeps you upright when the brain chemistry is shifting and the old habits don't have the same pull anymore.
So it's like building new mental muscles, new pathways.
Exactly. He drives it home by saying support isn't optional, it's neurobiological scaffolding. You're literally building new mental architecture to handle life differently.
That's a really powerful reframe. It's not about fighting urges, it's about building alternatives. So let's bring it back to Adrienne. She feeling lost, like that mind without a map. How did the scaffolding idea actually help her? What did she build? And how did Dan guide her in rewriting that internal narrative?
Well, crucially, Dan didn't push her or give her a rigid plan. He listened a lot, and their work wasn't really focused on the scale, on the pounds.
Okay, what was it focused on?
On language. On, as the source puts it, rewriting the names of things.
Rewriting the names of things, like what?
Well, instead of shame, they started calling it memory. Instead of needing control, they cultivated curiosity. Discipline wasn't the goal. Alignment was.
Ah, so shifting the internal vocabulary. That feels like a new mental routine right there.
Absolutely. It's a profound shift in perspective, just changing the words you use inside your own head.
So how did that play out for Adrienne over time?
Slowly, week by week, she started to kind of inhabit her new physical frame differently. She began filling it with permission.
Permission.
Yeah. Permission to not actually know who she was right now. Permission to feel awkward and clumsy in this in-between phase. Permission to build a new story without feeling like she had to, burn the old one down completely.
That sounds gentle and
Wait.
realistic.
Very. And the change wasn't dramatic overnight. The mirror didn't suddenly look friendly, but her reaction to the mirror changed. Her internal greeting shifted.
How so?
She stopped flinching away from her reflection. She wasn't quite smiling at it yet, but she could just stand there, look at herself for a bit longer.
Okay.
And Dan's point would be, hey, that's something. That's progress.
That shift from flinching away to just being able to stand there and look. It might sound small, but that feels huge, doesn't it?
It's a quiet victory, absolutely. A really profound internal shift.
And this ties into how Dan also redefines what success even looks like on this kind of journey, right? It's not just about the number on the scale.
Oh, completely. He has another great quote. This journey isn't about eating less, it's about living more.
Living more.
Yeah, that totally reframes the win condition. Success isn't just hitting a goal weight. It's about feeling alive enough, engaged enough with your life, that you can finally stop measuring everything purely in relation to food.
It's about reclaiming bandwidth almost.
Exactly. Rebuilding your sense of agency, reframing what gives life meaning, relearning how to build momentum in other areas of your life.
Which leads us to maybe one of Dan's most profound and potentially challenging statements. Weight loss is biology. Staying there is narrative.
Ah, yes. That one really hits home, doesn't it?
It explains so much, I think, about why people often regain weight. The biology part changes, but something else doesn't.
That line is just incredibly insightful. People often rebound, Dan argues, because they successfully change their biology, they lose the weight, but they never rewrite their story.
They never update the internal map.
Precisely. They just sort of go quiet internally. They don't fill that new space. And eventually, often, they drift back to the old narrative, the old patterns.
So Dan's work is about preventing that silence, helping people build that new narrative.
Yes, helping them actively fill the space that something like semaglutide might create. Fill it with structure, with community, with a renewed sense of identity and purpose, and giving it time.
So in his view, relapse isn't really about suddenly becoming uncontrollably hungry again.
Not primarily, no. He says people don't relapse into hunger, they relapse into confusion. Yeah, it's not seen as a failure of willpower, but more like a failure to build a sense of safety and confidence in the new way of being. They haven't fully mapped out how to live without the old armor, the old patterns.
So they default back to what feels known, even if it wasn't serving them.
Exactly. He believes people regain weight often because they never felt truly safe or equipped enough to live without the habits and identity tied to their previous weight. So for Dan, this whole process, successfully navigating weight loss long-term, is fundamentally about narrative reassembly.
Narrative reassembly.
Yeah.
It's like the refining of one's own internal compass in a world full of conflicting signals. He's not a drill sergeant. He's more like a guide walking beside you, helping you ask better questions.
And those questions sound really powerful. What
Yeah.
are some of the key questions he poses?
They're really thought-provoking. He asks things like, what happens when your body stops screaming for food, but your soul still wants something to chew on?
That's deep. Right, or he challenges people. What if the weight wasn't just physical, but historical, emotional, familial? Getting you to look at the deeper roots.
The layers underneath the physical.
Exactly. And maybe one of the most powerful ones is framing the medication itself differently. What if semaglutide is less of a prescription and more of a pause button?
A pause button.
Yeah.
I really like that framing. It implies opportunity, choice.
It does. It gives you that chance to just breathe, to look around internally and externally, and then intentionally decide what you want to build next in that space.
And this brings us right back to that idea he calls the quiet window.
Yes, the quiet window, that space where the old, familiar hunger signals have faded.
But something new is starting to emerge.
Something more honest is arriving, as he puts it. It's a window of opportunity.
But it sounds like it's also a potentially vulnerable space.
Oh, definitely. It's a moment of huge possibility, but yeah, vulnerability too. It's a space that really requires conscious effort, intentional navigation, and definitely support.
Right.
Because that's where the real deeper work of rebuilding that narrative truly begins.
So for anyone listening, if you've ever had that moment, looking in the mirror and feeling like the shape is maybe right or getting there, but the soul feels missing somehow.
Yeah.
If that reflection feels more like looking at a stranger than looking at home,
You are absolutely not alone in that feeling.
you're just in that part of the story, that hallway where you're learning how to belong to yourself again.
Exactly. You're not behind schedule. You're not failing. You're just
Yeah.
beginning that process. And the journey isn't about forcing yourself into a perfect after picture overnight.
It's about allowing the in-between.
Yes, giving yourself permission for that awkward, messy, but really vital in-between stage. Allowing your new story, your updated narrative, to actually take its time to form. It's ultimately about truly, deeply belonging to yourself again, in every sense.